Call the Wilmer City Council meeting to order for Tuesday, July 6th. Roll call.
Mayor Calvin.
Here.
Councilmember Fagerly.
Here.
Osmus. Here. Butterfield.
Here.
O'Brien.
Here.
Osk.
Here.
Davis.
Here.
Plowman.
Here.
Nelson.
Here.
9 present, 0 absent.
Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Are there any proposed additions or deletions to the agenda as presented?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Could we add a section for public comment wherever you see best fit?
Put that after number 10.
All right, thank you.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as presented with the addition.
Second.
Okay, there's been a motion made and seconded. I would like to add discussion on public comment following public comment that happens. It will be under public comment, but it'll be a discussion in regards to that. But I don't think there's a need to change that. Additional comments or questions? Motion been made and seconded to approve the agenda as amended. Roll call.
Councilmember Fagerly.
Aye.
Osmus.
Aye.
Butterfield.
Aye.
O'Brien.
Aye.
Osk.
Aye.
Davis.
Aye.
Plowman.
Aye.
Nelson.
Aye.
8 ayes, 0 nays.
That motion passes. Next, we have consent items. Ms. Thompson.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, on tonight's consent agenda, we have for council's approval the city council minutes of June 21st, special city council minutes of June 22nd, special city council minutes of June 28th, the Wilmer Municipal Utilities Commission minutes of June 28th, Park and Recreation Board minutes of May 19th, the accounts payable report for June 11 through June 24, consider Minnesota State 1-day to 4-day temporary on-sale liquor license permit for Kennewick County Fair Association. Consider Minnesota State 1-day to 4-day temporary on-sale liquor license permit for Foxhole Brew House Incorporated. Consider Spurs Corporation on-sale intoxicating liquor license. Accept projects and authorize final payment on project number 1901B, reconstruction of 13th and 14th Street Southeast, and project number 2001C, water main replacement on West Highway 12. Consider working out a class policy for interim Public Works Director Gary Manzer. A resolution to consider extension of temporary employment with John Herron as interim city administrator. Consider resolution dedicating matching funds for Minnesota DNR Shade Tree Grant Program. Council's acceptance, the Airport Commission minutes of March 24th, the Central Community Transit minutes of January 26th, and for council's information, an application for Wilmer Municipal Utilities Commission for Sean Meskey.
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Discussion. Roll call.
Councilmember Osmus.
Aye.
Butterfield.
Aye.
O'Brien.
Aye.
Osk.
Aye.
Davis.
Aye.
Plowman.
Aye.
Nelson.
Aye.
Fagerly.
Aye.
8 ayes, 0 nays.
That resolution motion passes. Next is consider a lease agreement permitting the installation and maintenance of a mural on the exterior of 309 Southwest Litchfield Avenue. Dr. Ramsden.
Mr. Mayor, council members, it's my pleasure to introduce Willard Hike. He is our new Main Street coordinator, and this is going to be his first agenda item for the council tonight.
Great.
Please welcome.
Welcome.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor and council members, briefly, I'd just like to say before I get to the CAR, I'm really happy to be here in Wilmer, and I look forward to hearing from all of you about your thoughts on how we can continue to improve downtown. So with that, I'll get to the CAR. Mr. Mayor and council members, in fall 2020, the City of Wilmer commissioned artist Lily Lennox to paint a mural in downtown Wilmer. That piece was sponsored by Blue Cross Blue Shield Healthy Together Wilmer. The piece consists of several painted aluminum panels depicting flag-themed cooking pots. The concept celebrates the cultural significance of food across Wilmer's many diverse communities. The mural is ready to be installed on the exterior of the building located at 309 Litchfield Avenue Southwest. The property's owner has signed a lease agreement allowing for that installation. The lease allows for the mural to be displayed for up to 20 years, but staff will reevaluate continuation of the lease every 5. The city maintains the right to terminate the agreement at any time. Thereby, staff requests that council adopt a resolution authorizing the mayor and city administrator to enter into a lease agreement allowing the installation and maintenance of a city-commissioned mural on the exterior of 309 Litchfield Avenue Southwest.
Thank you.
Sure.
Council?
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded to approve the lease agreement for 309 Southwest Litchfield Avenue. Discussion. Councilmember Fagerly.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So the maintenance is Minnesota Main Street going to cover those costs if something
Yeah.
needs to be done, graffiti or something like that on there?
Sure. I believe that certainly something Main Street would be involved in. To specifically respond to that specific instance about, say, graffiti, it is put up substantially high enough so that might not be an issue. At this time, I'm not sure something like that specific instance, I'm not sure whose budget that would fall under, to be transparent at this time, but that is definitely something I'd be willing to clarify.
Well, I hope nothing like that happens.
I agree.
Nowadays, you never know.
I
But it
agree.
wouldn't be the responsibility of the owner of 309.
Certainly not, and the lease makes that
States that.
clear. Yeah.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Yeah.
Additional comments or questions? Councilmember Davis.
Not about the mural, but I just want to say welcome to Wilmer.
Thank you,
Good to
Councilmember
have you
Davis.
here.
Thank you.
Looks like we're ready to vote. Roll call.
Councilmember Butterfield,
Aye.
O'Brien,
Aye.
Osk.
Aye.
Davis.
Aye.
Plowman.
Aye.
Nelson.
Aye.
Fagerly.
Aye.
Osmus.
Aye.
8 ayes, 0 nays.
I would also like to welcome you to Wilmer. Our Main Street and our downtown is very vibrant, and we've got a lot of really exciting things happening down there. I know that there's an event happening that has some coloring of some different events, different items that are going to be taking place at our community center. And so there's a lot of exciting things happening. So, Mr. Herron, maybe in the future we could get an update on Main Street, just on some things that are happening, maybe a future council update from Main Street, just on some things that are in the works when Ms. Valiant is with us. So if you could put that down for a note, I'd appreciate that.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, we will do that. Thank you.
Thank you again, and welcome aboard. We're glad you're here.
Thank you.
We've heard really good things about you. Next, we have the consideration of a reappropriation of funds in the capital improvements plan to replace Public Works fuel system. This is going to Mr. Smaby. And I'm not sure how to address you at this point. Our IT director?
That's correct, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, a summary of what this agenda item includes is a request to transfer unspent funds from an approved Public Works capital improvement project and use those funds to repair the existing fuel system at the Public Works garage. Now, this is not a full system upgrade. What it includes is just repairing the components which have been giving us problems. Those components include the line leak detection part of it and also the fuel administration portion of it. What the fuel administration portion includes is the ability to approve users and vehicles to use the system. In the council packet itself, you'll see 2 quotes, both from approved and reputable fuel system distributors, O'Day and Westmore. Our recommendation is to go with the quote from O'Day. This is based on the fact that we've used them several times in the past, and their sales representative came on site and did what I felt was a very thorough quote for us. At this time, I'd welcome any questions that you have about the fuel system.
Councilmember Fagerly.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So what users use this now? Because CAT system used to do it, the transit, the ambulance used to. I don't know who's out there now using.
At this time, the CAT system still does use it. The ambulance and Rice Hospital do not use it. However, we also have Public Works, the Police Department, Fire Department, Waste Treatment, City Hall. Any city entity really does still continue to use this system.
So they still have cards that they,
That's correct. That's part of the administration system, where what this would do is upgrade it to just a code that each vehicle would have and each person would have, and then they would type it in order to get fuel from the system.
thank you.
Can you explain a little bit the difference on this item versus the item that we had on the, in the budget a bit ago, maybe a couple of years ago? We had money in there as well. Was that just money that was not appropriated and never was funded, or?
I'm not familiar with what was in the budget a couple of years ago, if that was put in there by the city engineer or not. So.
Is Mr. Oakins here? Gary?
Mayor and council, if I'm thinking we're talking about the project we had out there a couple, 3 years ago, and that was the replacement of the tanks themselves.
Okay.
That was just the tanks, it wasn't the monitoring system. This is, Ross is our right-hand man out there when it comes to this, because when it shuts down, it's a mess, so it's something. And then just to reiterate on who uses it, there's 11 different divisions that use it throughout the city, and that includes HRA and transit. And there's 161 units that get fuel out there. So each unit being a squad or one of ours, so there's 161 key cards that get fuel out of there.
Thank you. Mr. Manzer is our interim Public Works Director, so thank you, Mr. Manzer. Additional comments or questions?
I'd make a motion adopting a resolution reappropriating funds in the capital improvement fund budget to replace the fuel system at the Public Works garage.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded. Discussion. Roll call.
Councilmember O'Brien.
Aye.
Ask.
Aye.
Davis.
Aye.
Plowman.
Aye.
Nelson.
Aye.
Fagerly.
Aye.
Osmus.
Aye.
Butterfield.
Aye.
8 ayes, 0 nays.
That resolution passes. Next, we need a
Thank you.
resolution awarding the fuel system to O'Day Equipment LLC and authorize the mayor and administrator to sign on behalf of the city.
So moved.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded. Discussion. Roll call.
Councilmember Ask.
Aye.
Davis.
Aye.
Plowman.
Aye.
Nelson.
Aye.
Fagerly.
Aye.
Osmus.
Aye.
Butterfield.
Aye.
O'Brien.
Aye.
8 ayes, 0 nays.
That resolution passes as well. Next, we have a consideration of an ordinance of TIF plans for TIF district, TIF development agreement, and adopt a resolution calling for a public hearing on July 19th at 6 p.m. Dave, I'm sorry, Dr. Ramsted.
That's okay. Mr. Mayor, council members, for your consideration is a proposed 15-year tax increment financing district for Sweet Living, also known as AEHN LLC. It's a multifamily housing project located at 1209 24th Street Northwest, which is across the street from Bridgewater College. Anticipated commencement of construction is in early 2021. Total project costs are about $9.3 million. Maintenance plan is incorporated into the TIF development agreement. The developer must comply with all the conditions in that property maintenance agreement for all their properties across Wilmer, or payment will be withheld. So until they have a citation at the time the TIF increment is due, the payments are withheld, which gives us considerable leverage for maintenance and debris, snow plowing, grass mowing, et cetera. So I want to thank Gabe for working with me and for working with engineering, Public Works, to hammer that out. In addition, the TIF development agreement has been updated by the city attorney to strengthen conditions that the property valuation may not be challenged over the term of the TIF. And this property maintenance agreement is actually going to be incorporated all TIF from this point forward, so that any project that receives TIF will have to comply with property maintenance laws. The 15-year TIF will provide about $1.5 million over the 15-year term. It's about $100,000 a year. 40% of the units will be at 60% area median income. We have not included inflation into this. So as the property values increase and if revenues tax increment increases, we could conceivably pay this TIF off early and get the property back in the tax rolls earlier. We estimated the project was at about a 4.5% revenue, and the national average is about 6.5%. This TIF puts them right in the middle at about 5.5%. So based on our but-for test, this project is not over-incentivized, and so they benefit from the incentive, and we benefit from getting a housing project and getting leverage on their entire portfolio in Wilmer. So I think it's a good deal for Wilmer and a good deal for the developer. Staff is requesting council to adopt the resolution to set a public hearing for July 19th for the proposed Sweet Living TIF plan, TIF district, and TIF development agreement. And at that time, Baker Tilly will be here to present TIF in general and answer any specific questions you may have at that time during the hearing. They could not be here tonight because we just switched over to non-live meetings, and it didn't, so they weren't able to be here this evening. But thank you.
I'll make a motion to adopt the resolution and set a public hearing for July 19th, 2021 at
Second.
Motion
p.m.
motion made and seconded to adopt the resolution to set a public hearing for July 19th at 6 p.m. Discussion. Councilmember Holman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Dr. Armstead, for presenting this, and thank you for your work on it. I also wanted to thank you, and I hope that everybody did receive the email that was sent out by Dr. Armstead addressing various questions and issues regarding not only this specific project, but multifamily housing around Wilmer in general and some of the challenges that we face. And I think the email did a good job in addressing those and throwing out some of the questions, and it reflects a lot of the feedback that we've been receiving. I've been receiving it. I assume that others have been receiving it as well. I just want to point out, and along with giving those thanks, but I want to point out, I think it's important for us to remember that some of these problems and the challenges regarding especially large multifamily housing developments, they're universal. It's not just specific to this particular company or this particular area of town, or what these are challenges. Snow removal problems, for example, in large parking areas, that's a challenge. And so it's important, and I think every time we go through this process, and I also appreciate the steps that were taken, adding further measures into our TIF program for the future, that when we do these TIF incentives and when we take a look at this as a developmental possibility, that we are continually kind of evolving and changing and trying to tweak things, trying to make them better so that we know that we're getting a better outcome for not only the party receiving the benefit, but all of the community as well. So I appreciate that, and I think that the steps taken and the answers that were given do a good job at addressing the questions and the concerns specifically from the residents in that area and also other residents around town regarding some of those issues, like you said, snow removal, waste removal, things like that. And I think it draws attention to those items, but I think that also highlights that for the other property owners as well. So I appreciate the thoroughness.
Thank you, Councilmember Plowman. May I add?
Certainly.
We did have a great, very productive discussion at the Planning Commission for the conditional use permit with single-family property owners that were nearby, and we added a number of conditions that Gabe has agreed to regarding adding fencing off-site from the subject property to close in some of the gaps, some berming, some landscaping, and a couple of other things, and they were very pleased. So. We heard them and we incorporated it right there into the CUP. So I think we did a good job with taking into consideration neighbor issues too.
May I just follow up? And then to follow up, I think then it's appropriate to thank AEHN for also stepping up to the plate, being at the table, having those discussions, and being willing to address those issues. Sometimes that's not always easy with other businesses or entities. So to have an entity that's willing to come to the table, discuss the issues, and come to an amicable solution, I think that speaks loudly. So keep up the good work. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councilmember Plum. I'm glad you brought it up. That is absolutely true. Gabe has been working with with me and with engineering and with the folks that live around the area. And I mean, surprisingly, very open-minded and accommodating as much as he possibly can. So
It's great.
I have a couple questions, Dr. Ramstead. You stated that this TIF agreement would be an umbrella agreement that would go across the properties.
correct.
How many doors are we talking about, approximately?
How many properties altogether?
Correct. How many
Oh.
doors? How many units?
Oh, I don't know off the top of my head, Mr. Mayor. May I ask?
Mr. Olson?
Yeah.
Okay. So this agreement, this TIF agreement would cover that umbrella of those 700 plus or minus units that are located within the city of Wilmer. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And so what steps are in place to, number one, on a staff level, to address the monitoring of that? And then number two, in the comments that Councilmember Plowman said, to make sure that we are complying with those requests.
That's an excellent question, Mr. Mayor and council members. The way we're going to proceed, unless there's some feedback on proceeding otherwise, is that if there is a citation on file for any one of those properties, the TIF increment will be held until that citation is vacated. So it's our standard procedure for citing. And with Sweet Living, we will cite, because we have this TIF, we will cite, and then, they will need to expeditiously resolve those.
Does that include the rental inspection program as well?
Yes. Yes, any citation, whether it's derived from the rental inspection program or from, any complaints from neighbors or residents or whomever.
Today, the council and myself received an email from a concerned citizen. And that concerned citizen was not talking about this individual developer or this property, but was talking about properties in general. And I know in the past, the council had kind of set a direction of complaint only. And I think that was rescinded a number of years ago, to where staff should feel more free to go out and if there are issues, address them, rather than to have to come through the council process or through a complaint process. And I know that there was some talk at one time about having an electronic complaint system put in place, and I think you either have it up and operating or you're close to getting it up and operating. And I know it had to do with software. So, so I know that those pieces are in place, and I appreciate you doing that. But I just need, our number of rental units compared to our owner-occupied units is becoming an alarming issue for myself. And so we really need to pay close attention to that. So with that, Councilmember O'Brien.
Just a clarification. Do we have to have TIF in order for these different organizations, these different companies to comply for management?
For property management?
Yeah?
No, but it is excellent leverage.
Well, that's what you're kind of saying.
No, okay, I'll back up. When Sweet Living came into my office and wanted a TIF, I said it is unlikely that we could probably get it through as is, that we would need to address property maintenance in your situation, because it has been a concern not only in my department, but with the council. And Gabe was more than open to discuss it, and I wrote up a draft. He reviewed it. He spoke with engineering, and we added a few other items. So he has been very accommodating. And so in that particular instance, I felt it necessary to leverage TIF to gain compliance with that particular developer.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Councilmember Nelson.
Thank you, Mr. Ramsey. I know that you work with the HRA and back and forth and on compliance for various programs, and it was interesting to hear the number of units that they have, but do you know the number of units that we currently have in the city of Wilmer under our rental inspection program?
No, not off the top of my head, Councilmember Nelson. I know it's many thousands, yeah.
And I also wanted to compliment you because I know when you come to the housing, the Vision 2040 housing, you're very aware of the compliance and want to be fair with how that is implemented. But I think we're also hearing here that we need to take steps in that direction. And I know you're working with a comprehensive plan to do some of those things too. So I think this is what you've shared with us is a great step for our housing in general, and so, but I think it does need to apply to more than just this. But I think this gives you a step in the right direction for these projects. So,
Thank you, Councilmember Nelson. You're absolutely right. We're trying to do a multi-pronged effort here. We're adding these caveats to the TIF agreements. We are going to be working with the comp plan to try to imagine some new directions in property maintenance. We're also trying to do a spring citation effort every spring. The one difficulty is, the city is not an HOA, and so there are properties that are not as well maintained or older than a lot of the other properties. So, there will always be some properties that are perceived, even if they are maintained for their age, that they are not in line with whomever's accepted, standards. So that'll always be the case, and we will go and visit them, and we will do what we can. But we are trying to attack this from multiple different directions. And as the mayor mentioned, there is an app that folks can actually go onto, take a picture, tap it on the map. It comes directly to us, and then we can address it and note it, and they actually get updates on what the status of the situation is. That could be for grass mowing, a variety of things. And so that is another piece of software. It's actually an app, but that we are going to pursue.
Additional comments or questions? Ready to vote? Roll call.
Councilmember Davis,
aye.
Plowman,
Aye.
Nelson,
Aye.
Fagerly,
Aye.
Osmus,
Aye.
Butterfield,
Aye.
O'Brien,
Aye.
Osk.
Aye.
8 ayes, 0 nays.
That resolution passes. Next, we have Councilmember Palmer. Did you want to make any introductory comments, or otherwise we'll just go to public comment?
Yeah, I just open it up for public comment because I know we used to have it a marked part of our agenda.
Right.
And so seeing there are some in the audience, I figured maybe give them a clear opportunity to speak.
Okay. Anybody that wishes to speak to the council? Mr. Pepper, please state your name. And again, you have 3 minutes.
Sounds good. Steve Pepin, I live on 2500 15th Street Southwest. Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of the council. Over the last few months, actually a couple of years, there's a lot of talent in our community, and some fighters have come to me and my team and said, what can we do to try to get a home fight? And started working with Rob Baumgart and Ryan Scheffler over at the Civic Center of possibility of bringing Huff Entertainment, which is a member of North Star Combat, to have 9 bouts similar to a boxing type thing. The issue is the expense. It's a $30,000 expense to have them come. So we want to figure out a way to capture as much revenue from that to get rid of some of that expense. And one of the issues is the ordinance that was passed, I believe, in 2007, which prevents us from selling liquor at the events. I know that some changes have been made to accommodate other people to make that work so they can make some revenue to withstand that as those expenses. I'm just hoping that we can do the same thing. We put a lot of work into it. I know Rob's talked to chief of police and several other people. These guys come with they got security. We'd be more than happy to hire the police department as well to get involved. And I think we're heading in the right direction as far, with Robbins Island and a lot of different things where I think our community is starting to get a lot of stuff going on, and that's what our community needs. I guess I'm open to any questions if that is something you guys want to ask me about, but I know that Rob has got a lot of information on it as well. And it's just something that I know this community would love to see. If we can get past the money side of it, I just would love to see these kids' dreams come true. There's a lot of guys that put in a lot of work, a lot of effort, and nothing would be better than to have a hometown fight. So.
Thank you for your comments. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Work with Ms. Thompson, our city clerk, on the liquor side, and then we will have our new city administrator on the 19th. So maybe schedule a time when you can meet with Ms. Valiant to discuss some of your concerns as well. But it sounds like you're doing everything correct and working with staff. So
Right.
thank you.
Sounds good. Thank you very much.
Okay, I'd like us to have a discussion in regards to public comment. It was removed from the agenda because of COVID and when we had the call-in piece, but as we all know, that was removed when the governor gave up his emergency powers on the 1st, and so we no longer have that. So this would be the appropriate time to have that conversation. We have plenty of time. It's only 6:30, and so I think we could have a robust conversation about that if that is the desire of the council. If you want it added back to the agenda, I would respectfully request that you make a formal request to have that added back on the agenda. That is just simply the council vote to put it back on. And I think that would be more than appropriate to have happen. It's generally the mayor's prerogative to set the agenda, and staff follows that directive. And I gave the directive to remove the public comment portion during COVID. And so I would like to hear the pros and cons of it and have a discussion in regards to it. I'm not opposed to putting it back on, but I want it to be on for the right reason. So if anybody wants to start the discussion, Councilmember Paulman.
Oh, well, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just think it's very simple. I think that that our governance and we as elected officials and as representatives of our community and decision makers in the community, I think it's beholden to us to conduct our business in an open and transparent fashion. And I think part of that is making ourselves not only available to the community, but making our meetings available to the community. And not only is the community able to come and attend and watch, but also with, when there is a section and availability for public comment, they're able to participate. And I think community participation makes for a healthier community. It allows the community to be part of what is going on, and the community is who elects us to represent them. So I believe that it's a healthy, important channel of communication that should be a part of our meetings. So I would speak in favor of it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Osmus, followed by Butterfield.
I would also like to see it return to the agenda. I liked it at the beginning of the meeting, if nothing else, for the convenience of the person that might have something to say, and they may not have to sit through 3 or 4 hours of just, fabulous council meeting process. But so they could at least feel like they have a voice and that they can come with their concerns or compliments or whatever, that they can be heard at the city council and that there's a place for that.
Okay. Councilmember Butterfield.
Yeah, hopefully we'll bring this back and we can get more people like Mr. Pepin involved with this process and letting everybody else know what they see for the city. I think that's very important.
Councilmember Nelson.
Thank you. I am open to public comments. I know there's communities that limit public comments to items that are on the agenda to be able to move the agenda forward. There are some people who do other things at the end of the meeting that allow for public comment too. And so I think that we've had periods of times where it hasn't always been constructive either. And so while people need to have ability to express their opinion, we need to have an ability to take care of the agenda. So I would like to see it back in some form. I'm not sure if it should be at the beginning or the end, or if we limit part of it to just agenda items, but I have taken a concern if we're, just for consistency purposes, that people know they're going to have the opportunity to speak about something or not, and so I think we do need some sort of protocol for that. I'm just not quite sure what it should be, so.
Ms. Thompson, do you have the sign-in sheet that we have used in the past with you tonight?
I do.
Could you share that with Mr. Herron? And I'm going to go to you guys for a comment in a little bit. So, Mr. O'Brien, Councilmember O'Brien.
That's what I was going to ask about a sign-in sheet, but I would agree. I think it should be at the beginning of the meeting as well. All of us are in different words, or many of us are in different words. We don't get a chance to hear from the public in general. And this gives us the opportunity to hear from people outside that don't contact us. So I think this is a very good opportunity for us to get more information. And again, that's what we're here for. We're here to listen to them. So I agree 100%.
Councilmember Fagerly.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I think it's important that we put it back on, and I like it in the beginning of the agenda. Since we don't have committee meetings anymore, there's no way they can talk to us unless they catch you when you're out in the grocery store or restaurants.
Or a ball game.
Or a ball game, so yeah, I think we need to add it again.
Okay, anybody else from the council? So could someone give a brief summary on what the rules are currently? I know I'd worked with Mr. Scott when we developed this originally, or I should say when I originally became mayor, and we revised it when Mr. Halliday was our interim city administrator. And so we did put some parameters in at that time. So maybe we can just have a review of what those parameters are currently, so that the council's aware of it, and also so that the public's aware of what the parameters are in place currently.
Thank you,
Scott.
Mayor, members of the council. As of the most recent meeting, when you had the standard public comment agenda item before the pandemic, the rules of the road, so to speak, for anyone wishing to address the council were that they would be limited to 3 minutes each, and that was tracked by the city clerk, that their concerns should not touch on the subjects of making comments on specific negotiated items like bids for services, equipment, contracts, franchise terms, labor contracts, or lawsuits to which the city is a party. And finally, that the open forum was not a period for anyone to make comments who's running for public office. And that was really the extent of the rules. There's certainly opportunities for the council to consider more extensive regulations, but those were the basic parameters that were in place previously.
Okay, thank you for reviewing those. I've heard suggestion of having it back towards the beginning of the agenda. And so where we used to have it was right after our, I believe we had it right after our public hearings. I think we did our public hearings first, and then we put it on after that. Is that right, Clerk Thompson?
I believe you are correct.
So that is one place to have it. The other place that I have talked with a number of mayors that it's worked well for their respective city, and it has to work okay for us. It's not what works well for another city, but they move it to the end of the agenda, and it's right prior to adjourning. One of the disadvantages to that is that if somebody wishes to make a comment in regards to an agenda item, they don't have that opportunity to make that comment prior to the council, weighing in. And, the decision may be swayed somewhat if a member of the public did have an opinion to give. So with that, is there any other discussion? Councilmember Osk.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Could you share a little bit more about some of what you've heard from those other cities about what makes that advantageous to have it at the end?
What some of them have told me is that when it was at the beginning of the agenda, people would come at the beginning of the meeting. They would basically blow up the agenda, cause chaos amongst the council, and get people going in different directions. And then they wouldn't even stick around to listen to the council discussion. They'd just walk out the door. They'd make their comments and turn around and walk out the door. And so there were some mayors that felt that simply all it was doing was giving people an opportunity to be in front of the TV and grandstand a little bit. And we had a little of that happen here. And then just turn around and walk out. And, you know, if you're going to speak to something that's on the agenda per se, and you don't even listen to see how the council is going to have that discussion, it seems counterproductive to have it at the beginning. If we are going to have it at the beginning, we're going to allow that discussion to happen. One would assume, and I mean, you can't lock the door. The chief wouldn't let us do that. But you can't lock the door and say you have to stay here and listen to the discussions. But out of respect to the elected body, one would assume that someone would do that. When I had talked with a couple individuals that had done that, they said, well, I went home and watched it on TV, so I didn't have to watch it and be there for the whole meeting, similar to what Councilmember Osmus had said. So those are some of the advantages and disadvantages. The other thing is, you know, how we've done it in the past is we don't respond back to the public. We just allow them to make their comments. We don't respond back, and then we refer it to a staff member to make a decision to come back and either report that back at the next meeting or not. And so that is some things that has been done as well. So, Councilmember, City Attorney Scott, are there additional comments you'd like to make?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I needed
What you may have
to
heard.
add to my previous explanation. I had skipped over the first requirement, which was that members of the public wishing to address the council should do so on non-agenda items. So I think the theory behind that was that the council wanted to hear from the public if there are other issues out there that the public wanted to bring to the council's attention that you weren't already set to act on. So I apologize. I just started reading after that requirement previously.
Thank you. Councilmember Oscar, did that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Councilmember Nelson.
Just clarification, Mr. Scott, did you say non-agenda items?
Right, that's what he said.
So I think one of the concerns I've heard is that if this is the only time an agenda item is being addressed, much back to there isn't committees or there isn't other places for them to have that, then how does the community have input into the items that are on the agenda? And so I think that's a different situation for us. I don't know what the answer is, but that I think is a concern that I hear, that, you know, it's like it's a done deal because it's on the agenda and you're not asking for any input.
Councilmember Davis.
It seems to me like we should hear from them about agenda items at the beginning of the meeting so that we all know what the citizens are feeling about these issues. But if they have something to bring up that's not on the agenda, maybe put that at the end, unless that's too complicated.
Additional discussion.
Maybe we need, may I? I'm sorry, thank you, Mayor Calvin. Maybe we need to think about this a little bit because I think we're thinking some of the same things. I'm just not sure the format or are we want to make a decision tonight?
Oh, no, I don't need to make a decision tonight, no. Mr. Herron, our interim city administrator, can you brief Ms. Valiant in regards to this and maybe at her second meeting? Because her first meeting is her first day, but at her second meeting, maybe we could have it as an agenda item for an in-depth discussion for the first meeting in August. Councilmember O'Brien.
Would this come under the same rules where we wouldn't be responding to any of the questions?
That's up to the council to decide. If the council wishes to decide or wishes to respond, in the past, we as a council had chosen not to respond, and so we didn't. That certainly is a council. I mean, if the council wishes to answer or have a staff member answer, the problem is staff doesn't know a question is coming, they're not going to have an answer.
Exactly.
If it's an opinion like what was shared with us earlier today, you know, I have an opinion that I would like to have fights in Wilmer. You know, that's something the council could weigh in on and say, yeah, this is how I feel about it. But if it's something that a staff member would need to research, they wouldn't necessarily have done that research prior to it. So that's why we wanted that to come back at a later time and have staff give the answer.
So, I know organizations I've been with, they give them 3 minutes, but we did not respond to any of it.
That's how we've done it in the past.
Yes.
Additional comments or questions? Councilmember Plowman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think that's an excellent point that Mr. O'Brien raises, and I think it was a good part of what we did in the past. It's okay to be silent and be thought a fool than to open your mouth and remove all doubt. And I think in the past, as you've mentioned, we have had some public comment that was rather inflammatory. And I think having the practice in place in which it was just expected that we would not respond, I think was a very wise decision on the part of this body, and I think saved some negative situations. So I think that would be a good idea to keep on our radar moving forward. But I also think it's a good idea in being just a little bit more strategic as we're having this discussion, because it's not just one of those things that you just lightly want to throw around because we've seen how it can go. So I appreciate the conversation, the comments that have been made.
I mean, one thing we really have to be careful about, particularly if you're going to make comments, is that, people have a right to free speech. And people even have a right to free speech of saying things that we don't like to hear. And I think some of that is what you're referencing. That happened a few years back. I know the city attorney, whenever those things are happening, I'm looking to him rather quickly to see if he says, don't stop him or cut him off. But he never has said cut him off, in all transparency here. But we have had conversations about that afterwards of where's that line crossed of when you allow somebody to continue speaking. In the past, I allowed people to criticize myself, but not criticize other council members or staff. If they were going to criticize other council members or staff, I asked them to stop. If they were criticizing me, I allowed them to continue criticizing myself, which some of you are aware that happened on a pretty regular basis for about close to 2 years. So I'm not sure that that's helpful as well, to just have, a group of citizens come in and they know they can berate the mayor, so they're going to do it for their 3 minutes, and that's what they're going to do. I don't know that that adds any value to the governance either. So, additional comments, Councilmember Fagerly.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We could do the open forum before the meeting too for 15 minutes or something, and you wouldn't get any grandstanding from the audience. It's another option.
There are councils that do that. You are correct. Yes, there are councils that will open it up 15 minutes before. There are also councils that will say that are going to have a total of 15 minutes of public comment, and when those 15 minutes are up, we take no more. I think the most comments we probably had, I know it was 200 and some people at one meeting, but I don't recall how long the comments went. I know it was well over an hour, and we had over 200 people that had signed up to speak. And that was the situation that I controlled that by saying if your comments are similar, I allowed people to give an applause for it, that they supported that, and then that cut down the number of people that actually spoke that evening. I think we had two separate occasions that we had a large group of people show up that wanted to speak. Councilmember O'Brien again.
You're talking about, there was a sign-up sheet. We talked a little bit about that. If there's a sign-up sheet, do they also tell you the subject matter? They don't. Okay. Again, boards that I've been on, they've always did that. So you had prior information. We never answered anything. It was still a 3-minute, but they would give you the subject matter before they came.
Okay.
The chairman or the superintendent or the chairman of the board would say, this individual is coming to speak about this. It was all signed up, pre-signed up.
You're saying they signed up before the meeting happened?
Correct.
Okay. We have it that they can sign up, so they can show up at 5 minutes to 7 or 5 minutes to 6 and speak at 6 o'clock.
Okay.
I know there are some boards that do that, some city councils actually do that, that they have to turn it into the city administrator ahead of time so that the administrator can brief the facilitator of the meeting, in this case, the mayor, on what's going to be talked about. But I don't know that I'm necessarily in favor of that. I think more spontaneous conversation, I think, in my opinion, leads to a more robust conversation and a more transparent conversation. I think most people, when they've addressed the group, have had their thoughts written down, you know, so they're following, you know, they're not getting up there and talking like I'm just doing right now, so. Open further discussion. Is everybody okay with having Ms. Valiant bring this back to us in the first meeting in August? Okay, I believe that discussion is concluded, unless somebody wants to say something else. Okay, community pride announcements. I have one other thing. There was direction at our last council meeting to allow remote attendance at meetings, and that will, you'll be getting a brief from Mr. Scott in regards to that, probably by the end of the week, maybe even tomorrow. And then Ms. Valiant will have something for us to consider at our next meeting in regards to remote attendance at meetings. So again, because the governor's emergency orders went away, that ability to have those remote meetings went away as well, unless the council takes some formal action. On the community pride announcements, I just want to give a shout out to Wilmer Fest and our new royalty who have been elected. They will represent Wilmer very well. I'm very proud of it. I was able to attend a number of the events, and of course not everything, because that is jam-packed, and just really want to give kudos to the Wilmer Fest board and all of the ambassadors, even those that were not selected to be the 3 representatives. I think that's great news. Also, Rockin' Robin starts next Tuesday, a week from tonight, out at Robbins Island. So if you're able to attend that, make sure and get out there, get your seat early. I know that there are people that show up at noon, some people even before that, to make sure they get their seats. So there's a lot of changes in traffic patterns, and I would really encourage people to use the busing system for Rockin' Robins, because that's the best way to get in and out. You get dropped off right at the door. You just step off the bus and go and enjoy the festivities, and then they pick you up and take you home. So that's a great deal. And then also there'll be a groundbreaking for Swanson Field on July 14th. I believe that's at 10 a.m. in the morning. And so if you can attend that, that would be great as well. This past week we had groundbreaking for the event center and also for the fields. And then previously we had groundbreaking the previous week for Robbins Island and the facilities that are going to be done there. So with that, does council have any other community pride announcement they'd like to make? Councilmember Fagerly.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, the walking path on Lakeland Drive and Highway 12, they finished up and they took all the barricades down today. So it looks very
really nice.
Yes, they did a good job.
Good, thank you. Any other comments? With that, I entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
We're adjourned.